The order entry icon is one of two icons where new order entry transactions begin. The other is the shipments icon, discussed later. Earlier, the order entry icon was discussed from the standpoint of establishing existing orders. Because of this, many of the fields on this screen have already been discussed. However, let's return to the order entry icon and cover all the fields in detail. The word new within the order number field indicates that the system will access the next sequential order number. For new documents, leave this field so the system increments sequentially. Then enter or select a customer number. If a customer is entered that does not exist within accounts receivable, the order can still continue if the Allow Non-Existent Customers option is selected, just as long as the customer is added before attempting to post the invoice batch within accounts receivable. If a user has the appropriate rights, customers can be added right now by selecting the New button. This starts the customer's window found within accounts receivable as if it was being selected directly from within that module. The blue triangle here can be selected to access the customer's address and contact information. Although changes can be made on this window, the changes entered will not update the customer's master profile. Changes made on this window will be referenced on this order only. If permanent changes need to be made, make them within accounts receivable. Click the checkmark button to have the system perform a pre-check credit on the customer prior to attempting to enter an order or an invoice. This button can also be selected at any time during the entry process to verify the customer's credit status as of that time. If the customer is not over their credit limit, the system responds with a pass credit check message. If they are, then the system displays their current credit status and any outstanding balances. A template code can be entered to have the system default to selected fields, those fields discussed earlier as being available on the template. For example, you can default to a specific order type or automatically assign text in the description or reference fields. Templates can also be used to override default customer settings, such as discount settings, that were assigned with the customer in accounts receivable. However, customer settings on a template only take precedence if it is selected before the customer number. Otherwise, the customer settings appear as the default for those fields that exist on both. Optionally enter a purchase order number to reference against this sales order if necessary. The system defaults to the date Accpac was started for the order date. This date, of course, can be any date, past or future. Then assign a default location code. The location code entered here appears as the default when entering detail lines in the lower section of this window. The system may default to a location code if one was entered for the customer, or if one was entered with the template code, if a template code is used. As discussed earlier, an order can be created from one of these four order types. Active indicates that the order is ready to go now. It doesn't necessarily indicate it will be a shipment or invoice, just that the order is active. Select Future if a customer wants their items shipped on a future date. Future orders become active automatically when day-end processing is performed on the date indicated. And standing order is like a reoccurring order. If a customer says they want to receive selected items every week or every month, indicate standing here. Active orders can periodically be generated from a standing order while still keeping the standing order available on the system for the next occurrence. And quote is an indication that the customer has an interest in purchasing selected items but is not committed yet. When selecting a quote, the system displays an expiration date. When or if the customer decides to accept the quote, simply recall the quote and change the status here to active. The checkbox here represents the ability to create an order from multiple separately posted quotes. When selected, the blue up arrow displays this dialog box where the quotes to merge together can be entered or selected using the Finder. All detail lines for any quotes listed here will be merged together onto one order. If more than one quote includes the same item, the item will appear on separate detail lines. Further off to the right, the Calculate Tax box can be checked to have the system calculate tax or not for the customer. Of course, the system will only charge tax if a customer is taxable, even if this is selected. The On Hold checkbox is where the order can be placed on hold. If the customer is on hold, the order will be placed on hold automatically. On hold orders cannot be invoiced. If the customer wants their items shipped to one of their alternate addresses, enter the code that represents their address here, assuming one or more ship-to addresses were entered for the customer. A new ship-to location can be created on the fly, assuming the data entry clerk has the appropriate rights. The blue up arrow can be used to inquire on the address to verify it is the correct one. The expected ship date defaults to the date entered in the order date field, but it can be changed. The date entered becomes the default date for individual detail lines in the lower portion of the window. The last fields within the invoice header section are order description and reference information. Text entered here is for the order as a whole. Text can be entered for individual detail lines as well. The lower portion of the window is where item details are entered. Items can be entered using this container type interface, where users cursor or tab across the columns, or press the zoom key F9. This view displays all the fields on one window. Whether you prefer this view or the container view is your choice. Using the zoom view, when a sales order is entered for, let's say, the fluorescent desk lamp, only the current item being worked on is visible. Even so, the nice part about this view is it only displays those fields that are accessible. Unavailable fields appear slightly grayed. Selecting the container type view, you can observe multiple detail lines in the rows of the container section, but all the fields appear identical, whether they are valid or not. The system will skip the fields that are not valid, but they cannot be distinguished from valid fields by sight. There are two types of items that can be entered: an actual item to be sold, either from inventory or a non-existent item, if they are allowed. The second type of item is miscellaneous, indicating miscellaneous charges. Selecting item as the type, enter or select the item the customer wants to order. If the item being sold is a bill of material or kit item, specify the specific build number. Once selected, order entry displays the description of the item as well as defaults to several fields based on the item, customer, and/or template selected. Ronald Black is linked to the USA price list, as defined within his profile. If he is to receive a different price from a different price list, it can be changed here. The system defaults to location 1 as defined up in the order header section. In the gray portion at the bottom of the window, the quantity details for this item appear, both at the selected location, location 1, and all other locations summarized together. To view the specifics of any of these other locations, click the Locations Finder. If the item is out of stock at the default location, or if you want to change the location for some reason, select a different location here, say the Portland location. The default location in the order header section still shows location 1. Therefore, different item details can be shipped from different locations. Separate orders do not need to be created. Then enter or accept the expected ship date, and then enter the quantity the customer wants to order. Entering a quantity, such as 5, the system prompts for the unit of measure. In other words, 5 what. Selecting the finder displays the different units of measure that have been defined for the item. Then enter or select the weight unit of measure. As discussed in other modules, any of these fields can be organized any way you like. For example, to rearrange the columns, simply click and hold the title of the column and position it either left or right. The visual size of the field can also be changed or hidden altogether. Changes made to the container are user-specific. The field layout appears the same the next time the user accesses the function. The system then displays the price by field and pricing unit of measure. Then the item price. This is the price specific to this customer and item based on several conditions. It could be a contract price, a price based on quantity purchased, a price based on a specific date range, a price based on the customer's discount structure, or just the base price of the item for this particular currency. Selecting the unit price finder, the system displays the available discount prices available for this customer. Ronald Black is linked to the standard base price for this item. If he was a D-type customer, for example, his price would be $55.49. Ronald's default price can be changed if necessary. This does not change his overall status. This will be a one-time change only. The next field, Price Approval, determines if the price in the previous field is higher or lower than the allowed price for this item, assuming the Price Checks feature within inventory is turned on. If the price is within the price boundaries allowed, the word No appears, indicating that a price approval is not required for this item price. If the word Yes appears, it indicates that the Price Checks option is selected and that the price is outside the boundaries of what is acceptable, and an approval will need to be entered before the price can be accepted. The approval code entered here will be someone who has the appropriate rights to allow the acceptance of the price. The next field is Quantity Shipped. If a sales order and a shipment are to be entered at the same time, enter a quantity here that is equal or less than the quantity being ordered. Entering 5 indicates that all 5 items ordered become immediately shippable. The system then calculates the backorder field, assuming this option was selected within the OE setup icon. If the backorder field is not automatically calculated and the amount shipped is less than the amount ordered, enter the quantity to be placed on backorder. Otherwise, if this field is left 0, the system does not retain the sales order on the system and will track any items not shipped as a lost sale. Continuing on, the next fields indicate the unit and extended weight of the item as well as any extended price. Then, optionally indicate to calculate a line item discount. This discount is above and beyond any previous discounts that may have been factored into the price of the item. Discounts can be entered as either a percentage off or a flat amount. The system then displays the extended amount again, factoring any discounts. The next field is the category field. The category is assigned when the item is added. Among other things, it determines the general ledger sales and cost of goods sold accounts that will be used when the order is invoiced. Although the category code can be changed, it typically is left as is because most companies usually want to track purchases based on product types, and thus generate detailed financial statements on these amounts. If the category is changed, it's changed for this detail line only. Subsequent sales of the item will revert back to the assigned category. The system then displays the cost of the item and the costing unit of measure. If the item has been identified as a serialized item, Yes appears here. Click the blue up arrow to enter any serial number information. Enter as many serial numbers as necessary, either for a one-to-one relationship or a one-to-many relationship. Serial numbers are only recorded at time of sale unless the serialized inventory module is purchased.
Let's take a look at order entry.